Welcome to the fourth lecture of moral psychology, in which we are going to switch to the second part of the course and ask about the political consequences of moral psychology, in particular focusing on conflict over climate change. Sorry, I think I'm clever, but I'm not. That's not much of an insult for a philosopher, is it? Are we doing heckling now? All right, keep it down. So our question is, my brother got me this jacket, actually. My brother got me this jacket. Where's it from? Let me check. Oh, you know what? It's from Stop Heckling and Pay Attention to the Lecture. That great shop, highly recommended. So we're going to ask this question: do cultural differences in moral psychology explain political conflict on climate change? Now, our way of approaching this question will be intimately related to everything we've done in the first part of this course. On the other hand, there are some people here who hated the first part of the course or missed the first part of the course. And I've got good news for you. I'm going to approach the second part of the course in an entirely fresh way. So this should make perfect sense to you, independently of anything that you learn in the first part of the course. It's great if you can bring it all together eventually, but I'm not going to assume that right now. Okay, so this is a kind of a fresh start, a sort of amnesty. We'll try and bring it all together at the end. We're also going to take a very simple approach. In this lecture, and also the lecture next week, I'm going to work through a paper by Feinberg and Willer, a very readable paper called The Moral Roots of Environmental Attitudes. So I'm going to take this as my guide to the key argument. So you'd like a preview. That's an excellent idea, right? You stopped heckling and now we're asking for good things. Great, that's good. Then keep along. No, keep it in the spirit. That's right. I'm going to have to edit this later if you keep saying things like that. All right, so here's a preview. There are four key claims that we're going to consider. In fact, there are five, but I'm only going to mention four because one of them is a bit difficult to introduce right now. So the first of these claims is that moral convictions and the emotions they evoke shape political attitudes. So the important point here is that it's specifically moral convictions as opposed to other kind of convictions. So we'll start by looking at that. Then we'll look at claim two. And after we've done the mystery claim two, we'll come on to the idea that liberals and conservatives possess different moral profiles. So this is politically liberal versus politically conservative. Now, when I say cultural differences in moral psychology, a natural thought is, we're going to be studying some people from a far off land, right, who have very little linguistic or cultural interaction with people in UK or Europe or North America. And sometimes that's the right thing to do. So if you're interested in the effects of language on categorical perception of colour, for example, there could be a good reason for doing that. But when you're interested in moral psychology, one of the largest and most significant political divides is not one that's between countries or involves geographical differences. There's a major cultural difference between liberals and conservatives. That's actually a lot more obvious now than it was when I first started doing moral psychology, that cultural difference. And you'll see that that's the thing that we're going to focus on here, using the work both of anthropologists and psychologists. The fourth claim is that liberals express greater levels of environmental concern than do conservatives. Right? And that's a very interesting observation because on the face of it, it could just as well be the other way around. Now, if you're a liberal, of course, you don't think that, right? You think conservatives are nasty people and they're wrong about everything. But if you're a conservative, I put it to you, it's not particularly obvious why concern about climate change should be particularly associated with liberals. But the idea is that that's in part because liberals are more likely to view environmental issues in moral terms. That's the idea. You see how all of this is going to fit together. It's your moral convictions that actually drive your political attitudes. Nothing else really has much effect on them. We've got difference in moral profiles between liberals and conservatives. And as a consequence of that, the liberals, but not the conservatives, tend to see environmental issues in moral terms, and so it becomes more politically charged for them. So the claims. Now, these are all quotations. I'm not asserting that these are true. And if they are true, they're far from obvious. Finally, exposing conservatives to pro-environmental appeals based on moral concerns that uniquely resonate with them will lead them to view the environment in moral terms. So this is actually very interesting here. So if we just stop at 4, we've actually answered the question. If everything is right, then cultural differences in moral psychology can indeed play a role in explaining conflict over climate change. But this fifth point takes us even a step further. It says we can design effective interventions designed to democratically reduce conflict over climate change by making appeals based on moral concerns that will resonate with people who are more conservative than liberal. We can cross the cultural divide as long as we're prepared to be open about different moral perspectives. Very interesting. So there you go, 5 claims. This is what we're going to look at in part 2 of the course, this lecture and the next.